Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. And we're actually at Blaris, or what used to be called Blaris Moor, which is not far from Sprucefield. And you can see the flat ground there around, the flat fields around Blaris. And also you can see the hills in the background. But we're actually outside the old graveyard. Blaris Old Graveyard, as you can see from the sign, and there are actually three graveyards in Blaris, and this is the oldest of the three. But from at least the early 1700s, Blaris was actually home to a military barracks, and a detachment of the Monaghan militia was stationed at Blaris Camp in 1797, along with other regiments. And you can see the wall there that goes along the outskirt of the graveyard. And a senior officer called Colonel Charles Leslie, he was deeply disturbed to learn that Presbyterian radicals from Belfast had persuaded a number of his soldiers to swear allegiance to the United Irishmen. And Leslie assembled his men, and he promised to seek a pardon from the Lord Lieutenant for those who admitted their involvement in the conspiracy. Now, more than 70 soldiers confessed to taking the oath, and after a time were duly pardoned. However, 4 young men were not so lucky, because they swore the other men in of the militia into the society, and so it was seen that they were the ringleaders. And so we're just entering the graveyard now. And so the 4 men who actually swore the rest of the militia into the society were taken to Belfast, and they were took before a military court, and they were tried and found guilty, and they were court-martialed, and they were sentenced actually to be shot here at Blaris Camp. And so on the 17th of May 1797, at precisely 1 PM, 4 young men kneeling on their coffins were shot dead by firing squad. And so certainly there's a lot of history here at Blaris, and also in the Blaris cemetery. But also in the 17th century, in 1689 and also 1690, as I mentioned in another wee video, there was actually a Williamite encampments here, and Blaris Moor would have been full of Williamite infantry soldiers. And it was here that actually King William III reviewed his army. And it is said that after dismounting from his horse, His Majesty tied his horse to a thorn bush, which has ever since been known as King William's Thorn. Now, I don't know if that thorn bush is still here today, but from that it was known anyway as King William's Thorn. And so there's a lot of history here in the old graveyard at Blaris, and of course some of the United Irishmen are actually buried here in this old graveyard, but they're buried in an unmarked grave, and so we wouldn't know which grave that is. And so thank you for joining me, and in the next wee video I'm going to look at some of my family members, my granda and also my granny, who are actually buried in this graveyard. And so we're going to look at that grave. So thank you for joining me today on the Church History Trail.